to drag shows. So what they're implying with every single one of these, if you stop minors from getting to watch drag shows, then our economy will crumble. If you do not sexually abuse children, the economy will crumble is their actual argument. It's disgusting and it's trash. And not only that, it's even made worse by the party of lockdowns, the people who cheered on Bashir as he shut down businesses. And thank you, everybody, for joining me for another amazing episode of the Andrew Cooperrider Show. Of course, I'm your host, Andrew Cooperrider. Amanda, we got a great show for you today. We have an amazing show to cover frankly, we're covering one specific bill today. And that bill is 23 RSSB 115. With a committee sub that has been put on it. For those of you who don't know what that means, the committee sub just means that they had proposed a bill and then they changed it a little bit before they go into it. What's this bill cover? Well, we're going to talk all about that, and we're going to talk about why the drag queens are just really upset that they can't show their performances to minors, and how somehow that's going to destroy our state's economy. That's a real argument we'll hear several times. So we're just going to talk about that testimony. We're going to talk about that bill, go in depth there for the next 30 minutes or so. And before we do that, though, I want to invite you guys, please, to like, comment, share, subscribe, get this out there. We are fighting in the culture wars, of course. We are, of course, fighting politically too as well. But part of quote unquote fighting in the culture wars is letting other people know they're not alone. And so when you share a podcast, when you share these types of things, it helps people know that there's other people out there who think like them, and they are not the crazy ones. Because I promise you this, watching some of the testimony that we're going to go through, you're going to swear that you have got to be a crazy person or something like that to not understand. So we're going to take a deep dive into it. Also, as well, please go on Andrew4ky.com, Andrew4ky.com. Check out my campaign, the Treasures campaign. And please donate too as well. Help spread the word there. Tell people to vote for me, please. We're about 2 months and a week, so about 9 weeks or so away from the election. And I need all the help I can get. So please get out there and do it, because we've got to make a difference in the state. And the crazies are running the madhouse. We're going to see why here. And let's dive into it. Okay, so 23 RSSB 115. What we're going to do before we dive into the crazy people, and I have to warn you, at one point we are going to see a person in drag testifying in the Capitol, because nothing says reasonable like cross-dressing to try to get a bill passed. I'm just going to say that, but putting that to the side, I'm going to read what the actual bill is. And I think it's important I read what the bill is, because we're going to hear several people's testimonies about why this bill means the death of everything modern society as we come to know it. And we're going to keep returning back to what the bill does, because shocker, I know most of you won't be shocked by this, but they are liars. The LGBTQ activists are liars. They know this has nothing to do with them living their lives bothering nobody. Nobody gives a flying fig what you do in the privacy of your own home. None of us care. None of us want to use government to lock you up because you're gay. None of us want to sit there and lock you up because you get your kicks by cross-dressing. None of us have any issue with you doing that. We think it's weird. I don't approve of it, but I don't want my government to do anything about it. Let you and your weird sexual fetishes go out into the world, live your life however you want to. Just don't do it where it affects others. And right now, you're doing it where you're trying to get minors to view these things. That's the issue here. Your children, you're attaching yourself to children. And people would say, Andrew, don't parents though? Don't they have a right to take their kids to what they want to do? Isn't that liberty? And to which I respond with, come on. Can we have an honest argument? Let's be really honest here for a second. Let's have an honest conversation. Why do we, conservatives, liberty, constitutionalists, believe government exists? It's to do a few functions, one of which is contract enforcement. That's one of government's key functions. And there is an unspoken contract that says that you, as a parent, have to take care of your child properly. It's an unspoken contract that we've codified into law. So what's this mean? It means that you can't give, even the crazy far lefties agree. And those of us who are pro-life like me, we disagree on where the contract starts. To even the far lefties, I say that contract starts at conception, and you as a mother, as the parents, have to take care of that child from the moment conception starts. That's what it is. But for some of you out there, especially some of you lefties, or maybe you think it starts at a different place, you think it starts at birth. And so I'm not even going to argue that, because we're going to go off into another conversation. What we're talking about here is why does the state and society as a whole, why do I believe that we have an interest in stopping children from watching sexual performances? And just, darn it, why do we live in a culture and society where I even have to have this conversation? You would hope that this would be self-explanatory. You would hope that people just naturally know that children shouldn't be watching these things, but that is not the case that we have in front of us. So I now have to, for some reason, continue to explain why children should not be allowed at these things, okay? And what interest does government have? So, minute a kid is born. If you're far left, you think it's when the kid's born, okay? We all agree that a mother cannot take her 1-year-old child and just leave him or her out in a field somewhere and just plop him down, say, I don't feel like taking care of you anymore, and walk away. We all agree that they're not allowed to do that. We'd call that child abuse, child neglect. We would take issue with that. We would say it should be illegal, and it is. And so we all agree that you have, as a parent, a responsibility to take care of your child. We also believe that you have a responsibility to not expose them, to not sexually abuse them. And for some reason, we found ourselves in a culture we have to explain taking your 3-year-old to a fetishistic, sexualized performance where they're simulating sex and dressing inappropriately is against the rules, is against the law. You can't do it. You can't take your 3-year-old, can't take your 10-year-old to go out there and watch people simulate sex. That's exposing your children to pornography. That's illegal. We all agree on that. But for some reason, the far left has decided to lie about the nature of drag performances. They've decided to lie and say they are not sexualized, fetishistic, sexually deviant performances, that somehow it's just an art and a culture. And they really reveal the fact that they know it is a sexualized performance when you hear what they have to say about this bill. I'm going to read this bill to you. 23 RSSB 115 Committee Sub. Here we go. An act relating to adult-oriented businesses, be it enacted by the General Assembly of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Section 1, a new section of KRS Chapter 525 is created to read as follows. As used in this section, adult performance means a sexually explicit performance as defined in KRS 529.010, Section 15, and includes a live performance. So hold on, we're going to pause there. Let's go over to KRS 529.101 so you know what they're talking about. Here it is. Section 15 reads as follows. Sexually explicit performance means a performance of sexual conduct involving acts of masturbation, homosexuality, lesbianism, bestiality, sexual intercourse, or deviant sexual intercourse, actual or simulated physical contact with or willful or intentional exhibition of the genitals, flagellation. Okay. Flagellation or excretion for the purpose of sexual stimulation or gratification, or the exposure in an obscene manner of the unclothed or apparently unclothed human male or female genitalia, pubic area, or buttocks, or the female breasts, whether or not subsequently obscured by a mark placed thereon or otherwise altered in any resulting motion picture, photograph, or any other visual representation exclusive of exposure portrayed in a manner of a private family nature, not intended for distribution outside the family. So they're saying, so they've defined sexually explicit performance as acts of masturbation, homosexuality, lesbianism, bestiality, sexual intercourse, or deviant sexual intercourse, actual or simulated, or the willful intention exhibition of genitalia. So they've defined that in 529.101, section 15. So you know what they're talking about here. So as used in this section, adult performance means a sexually explicit performance as defined. We defined it. We all agree that simulating sex and exposing yourself is a sexual performance. We all agree. Okay. And wearing inappropriate clothing. We agree. It includes a live performance or a performance involving male or female impersonator. So as used in this section, adult performance means a sexually explicit performance as defined in KRS 529.0101, section 15. We talked about that. And includes a live performance or a performance involving male or female impersonators who provide entertainment that appeals to a prurient interest, regardless of whether or not performed for consideration. Okay. That word right there, prurient, I'm going to look up what the definition is exactly. There you go. Having or encouraging an excessive interest in sexual matters. Okay. So they're pretty well defining what they're talking about, whether or not perform for consideration. So basically, you can't have an adult performance as defined in KRS 529.010 or performance involving male or female impersonators who provide entertainment that appeal to a sexual interest, pretty much. That appeals to people being sexually looking at it, right? So this clearly is saying that, all right, if a female is playing a male part in a play, or a male part is playing a female part in a play, and it's just part of a play, that's not a big deal. But if you're doing it as a part of a sexualized performance, it's a problem. A person is guilty of engaging in an adult performance when he or she engages in an adult performance on publicly owned property or in a location where the person knows or should know that the adult performance could be viewed by a person under the age of 18 years. So what is this even saying? It's not even saying you can't have it. It is saying that you cannot do this performance on a publicly owned property or a place where, a person under the 18 years of old could view it. So what does this mean for private drag shows? Does this mean a bar can't have a private drag show? Does this mean a strip club can't? Does this mean you can't have your drag brunches? No, you can have all those things still. But you just can't let somebody under 18 in. That seems pretty straightforward. We continue in the bill. Engaging in an adult performance is a Class B misdemeanor for the first offense, Class A misdemeanor for the second offense, and a Class D felony for the third and subsequent offenses. Any business that knowingly allow or host an adult performance as defined under Section 1 of this Act, at which a person under the age of 18 years is present, shall constitute sufficient grounds for suspicion or revocation of a license issued under KRS Chapter 243 by the Department of Alcohol Beverage Control or the local alcoholic beverage control administrator. Suspension or revocation of any business license or certificate of occupancy, denial or refusal to renew a business license or certificate of occupancy, or any other action deemed appropriate for the redress of the violation as determined by the issuing or governing authority. So it's saying, look, you're a performer you're performing, and let's say you're a cross-dressing performer, you're in a strip club, somebody shows a fake ID and comes in and they're under the age of 18. Are you going to get in trouble with that? No, because it says in a location where the person knows or should know that an adult performance could be viewed by a person under the age of 18. Well, you wouldn't think so if you're like, no, they should be carding at the door. And then also as a business, if you're carding at the door to make sure under the age of 18 is present, knowingly allows or hosts an adult performance, which any person under the age of 18 years is present. So you have to know that the person under 18 is present too. So if you're IDing at the door, not an issue. This is handled. And I bring this up because we're about to go into this testimony here, and you're going to hear some pretty large lying about what it is that this bill actually does. Jump into this guy's testimony here. Warning you, it's a little loud. We're going to start off with this person's. We're going to listen to a few of these, offer some comments as we go. Let's dig into it here. He gets a little loud. So
all that applause is for staying within the 2 minutes. Chairman Girdler, committee members, thank you for hearing from us. My name is Chris Hartman. I use he, him pronouns.
Can they not? Like, we covered this last week that when they testify, they announce their pronouns. It immediately undercuts what they're talking about. And we're going to count how many of them announce their pronouns, right? Quite crazy. Though, fun to be honest, some of these individuals probably glad that they do announce their pronouns as we get down into it. So I guess maybe we should be thanking them. But you're clearly a dude. This guy's clearly a man. For those who can't see, he's a guy. He's wearing a suit, tie, everything else. You don't need to announce your pronouns. You're clearly a guy. We're not wondering. First off. Second off, it really undercuts what you have to say. I'm just saying that you don't need to announce it. Let's go on.
I'm executive director.
Oh, also throughout, for those of you watching this, there's this woman off to the left side wearing a green blue thing. Just watch her. It's ridiculous. They also do this weird clappy thing with their finger. It's like a parody. Like, you always see these like parodies of what leftists are like, and you don't believe those people really exist. Nah, these people really exist, and they're sitting in this crowd, and they're hilarious to watch. So let's dig into it.
Of the Fairness Campaign. And let me just state very briefly, this is my 15th legislative session up here. In this session, I am poised to have to testify more times than every other single previous legislative session combined. My first 10 years here in Frankfort, I'm not certain I testified once because you all weren't running these attacks on our community. And now we've got a dozen of them that we're facing this year. Let me say that you should be thanking our queens and kings and greeting them as the royalty they are. What drag performers have done for the bottom line of countless Kentucky small businesses is more than many legislators will do in their lifetimes.
What's really going to disgust me as a small business owner throughout this entire performance by the left through all these people, you're going to hear several people talk about how somehow the backbone of Kentucky is just built on drag queen performers. Like, without drag queen shows, our economy will crumble. Well, first off, I don't want an economy. And keep in mind, I read what this bill will do. It stops minors from going to drag shows. So what they're implying with every single one of these, if you stop minors from getting to watch drag shows, then our economy will crumble. If you do not sexually abuse children, the economy will crumble is their actual argument. It's disgusting and it's trash. And not only that, it's even made worse by the party of lockdowns, the people who cheered on Bashir as he shut down businesses. Want to sit here and say, well, you're damaging small businesses if you don't let minors go watch drag shows. The party of lockdown, the party of people who said a strip club could give out lap dances I couldn't serve cups of coffee. The party of people that when small business owners were hurting and just trying to survive said all they cared about was money and they were killing grandma. The people who applauded the unscientific, tyrannical mandates of Bashir now want to sit here and tell us they care about small business more than we do. No, you care about sexualizing small children. You can't say that out loud because it makes you a piece of trash and you'd have to admit to yourself you're a piece of trash. So instead, you're going to demagogue the issue and stand on the backs of small business owners like me to somehow act like you're fighting for us. You're not. You're garbage. Your ideology is garbage. And what you're trying to do to children is garbage. And to somehow pretend it's important to the economy of Kentucky to get it done is garbage.
And yet here you are, attacking Kentucky small businesses at their core. We know what this is about. At least we know what the aims of the national groups coordinating this effort are. Some of you are probably just caught up in their games. They're political pawns in a war to erase our community, eradicate the acknowledgement of transgender children at school, at home, and in healthcare settings, and eliminate the places where we gather joyfully. What this bill attacks are the nearly 25 beautiful pride festivals that have cropped up all across the Commonwealth of Kentucky these days. Perhaps you...
If minors can't see exposed buttocks, genitalia, and simulated sex, then pride festivals can't go on anymore. Maybe we shouldn't, maybe not maybe that's a good thing. That's probably a good thing. If that's what's going on at these pride festivals, which I've never been to a pride festival. I have seen the LGBTQ float, though, in the Lexington 4th of July parade. And let me tell you that much, should have been illegal. Guys walking around wearing G-strings in front of my small child at the time should be illegal. That's what this bill's addressing. And if that's what's going on at these pride festivals, then it should be, because it does say you can't have it on public property. You can't have sexualized performances on public property. It doesn't say you can't sit there and have a pride festival with gay things and everything else. It just says you can't simulate sex and expose yourself on public property. This has been a rule for a long time, but for some reason, we have to make a special rule for you because you have been trying to get around it. But apparently, this is going to end all festivals ever because they can't expose themselves to children any longer.
The fact that Kentucky made it onto the New York Times list of 52 places to visit in 2023. There were only 13 U.S. destinations. Why did the Times tell people to come to Louisville? It's because of our rising
crime problem. Rising crime problem. Is that it?
LGBTQ scene.
Oh, no. No. They didn't tell them to come to Louisville because it's a dangerous place. They told them to come because it's gay. Well, not gay. Sorry, the LGBTQ scene, because it's got cross-dressers and transgender people galore, and you should come to it because, you know, that's an important thing you're looking for when you're traveling.
The best drag brunches in the nation. Maybe this bill won't matter to you, but it matters to our tourism industry. It's why so many of Kentucky's chambers of commerce and tourism offices have opposed anti-LGBTQ laws
Mr.
like
Hartman,
this for years.
Mr. Hartman, your 2 minutes are up.
Thank you very much.
Jump out in front a little bit, Mr. Chairman. Bob Hillringer for the record. I represent the Fairness Campaign. I'm not here to talk about the economy. I'm here to talk about what's right and what's wrong. I'm a proud Republican, former member of the House, served with the senator from Kenton, I think, or Frankfort, somewhere the district ended up. But I took an oath, even in addition to what I took in the House, I took an oath as an attorney. And that oath means that as an attorney, we speak out against injustice. We speak for the rights of people. And this bill, although it's been drastically amended, is still discriminatory, and an ounce of discrimination is the same as an ocean of discrimination. I just, I was reading the Wall Street Journal yesterday, and there's a report from Uganda I had to make sure that it was Uganda, not Frankfort. But it says that they're going to introduce a bill in Uganda to punish promotion, recruitment, and funding related to LGBTQ activities. You know, there's just an avalanche of these anti-gay bills introduced in the House and Senate. I don't understand it.
Well, it's all got to do with
why
children.
you're targeting these people. Why you're want to
about protecting
write
children.
into the law discrimination against them, not for who they are, but for what they are, and that
if what they are people who expose children to sexual performances and want to permanently disfigure children and want to transition children and want to chop the genitalia off children and take advantage of children, then yeah, that's what they're being if that's who you are, that's what you're being legislated against. That's 100% accurate.
could possibly be grounded in religion is mind-boggling to me. I don't understand that. I don't know how to quote scripture. I'm not very good at it. But 2 weeks ago, call it divine intervention, I was at the 9:30 Mass at Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic Church in Louisville, the 7th Sunday in Ordinary Time. And lo and behold, the first reading was from the 19th chapter of Leviticus.
Okay. This is about to be the most ridiculous cherry picking ever. He's going to read from the 19th chapter of Leviticus. Let's let him read and then I'll jump in. This is a bold move. As soon as he said, I'm going to read from Leviticus, I was like, bold move, Cotton. And I'll tell you why here in a second.
The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the whole Israelite community and tell them, be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. You shall not bear hatred for your brother or sister in your heart. Though you may have to reprove your fellow citizen, do not incur sin because of him. Take no revenge and cherish no grudge against any of your people. You shall love your neighbor as yourself."
So he just read that. And he has clearly translated it to mean somehow that dealing with these issues, attacking children, is somehow hateful to your fellow man. I'd be curious to know his take on, or maybe because he's an idiot, he didn't bother to read, I don't know, a couple more passages forward in Leviticus. Because in Leviticus 20:13, it says, if a man practices homosexuality, having sex with another man as with a woman, both men have committed a detestable act. They must be put to death, for they are guilty of a capital offense. This man, this is how stupid these people are. He just quoted scripture in a book of the Bible where 10 passages forward, it says you should kill somebody for being homosexual. You should put them to death as a capital offense in Leviticus. That's what it says. That's what it says. He wants to quote Leviticus as to why this bill shouldn't be in place, and then ignore the part where it says if a man practices homosexuality, having sex with another man as with a woman, both men have committed a detestable act. They must be put to death, for they're guilty of a capital offense. He's reading from a book of the Bible that says homosexuality is a capital offense where a person deserves to be put to death, and then quoting it to justify why we should be against this bill, saying that children can't go to sexualized performances. He literally is talking about, why are we attacking homosexuality? Let me read from you from the book of the Bible that literally has lines in it about how people who practice homosexuality should be put to death. And what's ridiculous is as he's reading that, the people back in the corner are like, yeah, that's right. That's right. Come on, man. You couldn't make it easier on us. Talk about cherry picking things. First off, at least pick something from the New Testament. Okay, pick something from the New Testament. You could probably twist something there to somehow justify the thought processes you have. You are clearly, you've already come to a conclusion about what you want the Bible to say, and then you've backfilled it in by trying to cherry pick verses while ignoring the very same verses from the same book you just read from that literally destroy your argument. But you know, whatever. Bold move, dumb move, bold move.
I am the Lord. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
God bless you.
My favorite reaction there is from David Walls. So those of you who don't know, David Walls is the guy sitting behind him. He's in the yellow tie. David Walls is from the Family Foundation. It's a Christian organization. David Walls knows his Bible. And I'm going to rewind for a second. Watch this man get up after quoting the script, because I know David Walls is saying the same thing I am when he started talking about Leviticus. Like, that is not the first book I'd go to if I'm trying to somehow make a Christian argument for why young children should be allowed to watch sexual performances. But watch his face as he gets
I
up.
am the Lord. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Just utter confusion about why he would pick that book.
Since he
Look at that
jumped
little
to the
smirk,
end.
like he knows, like he's like, that guy just quoted from a book that says from the book of the Bible that says homosexuals should be put to death in order to try to defend this. It's just, they're a parody of themselves.
Over. All right, that's fine. Tammy, TIES? Politics. Politics. Oh.
For those of you not watching this, we now have an actual cross-dresser performer, a drag queen, now sat down in garb. Nothing says you're going over the top, like sitting down like this and saying, please let me perform in front of your children. It seems a little much, doesn't really get your point across, but let's hear what politics, which he should have had to use his real name, but let's hear what he has to say.
Everyone, my name is Politics, a play on words that I hope you all can appreciate. I want to start by acknowledging the hate that was mentioned. As a queer person who has been bullied their entire life, I fully want to say that I am sorry for that hate that you received. I am no stranger to it, and I hope that one day, as I hope that I also do not receive that. I grew up in a religious home. I'm ordained. And a Bible
Ordained.
verse that comes to my mind often, that I hear in my mind, and
Oh gosh. We got another scripture quoter. Let's see if they go with Leviticus this time.
grew up hearing from my mother, was Matthew 25. Do unto the least of these as you have done unto me. I ask yourself, what are you doing unto the least of these, and would you do this to Jesus that you so love and worship? This bill not only compromises or asks me to explain my humanity, but it also brings into question my livelihood. As a drag performer who depends on drag shows and drag performances for income, this bill not only tells me that I am not really a human worthy of rights, but I'm also not worthy to work, and I'm not deserving of an ability to make money.
Your minute's up.
Okay.
So this guy is saying that if he is not able to dress like that, and which, if you're listening to the audio only, is ridiculous, dress like that, then in front of children and read to them, then his ability to earn will just go out the window. And I think he actually has a point, because we've seen an increasing amount of drag queen story hours and public schools bringing in drag queens to do all kinds of things. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure for him, if we stop that, he will no longer be able to get his sexual kicks from cross-dressing and then reading a book or performing in front of children. That could be hurt by this bill. I don't know if the book reading portion would be, because I don't believe that would be considered innately sexual as long as this individual is fully clothed at the time. But point is, and not simulating sex, but yeah, I mean, that really has grown to be quite the industry, and I think it probably shouldn't be because it's strange. And yeah, I mean, I guess if our tax dollars are no longer funding drag queen story hours and performances, it could show a real problem here for politics, who loves to be mini ticks that suck off the government apparently, and also that love to suck off of these existence of a hedonistic culture who has decided that there is nothing wrong with that. I mean, just be realistic here. We all know. Come on, you can't look at that and say that isn't a sexual thing. You can't. Nobody would willingly do that. Nobody. And it's not transgender. Understand there's a difference here because drag queens know they're dudes. They're not mentally ill in that sense. They're not mentally ill where they believe that they were born in the wrong body. They just really like dressing like the opposite sex and then having people watch them do it. So I don't understand how that's not a fetish, but okay.
Thank you.
Wanted to give you guys the opportunity to hear some of that testimony, hear what the other side is saying about why they just have to be allowed to continue to expose minors to sexualized performances. They're out of control. Well, guys, that's what we have time for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Please check out the andrew4ky.com website. Remember, the election's coming up in May. I thank you so much and have a wonderful, wonderful